So as we discussed earlier, this segment arose from their similarities in their search patterns. Most members of this segment ranked visiting a dealership as their top method of information gathering. With that being said, they're also very independent in their search behaviors. They're getting their own information. They want to make their own opinions. So they're going to go to the dealership. They're going to go to the websites, go to the internet by themselves, get their own information, form their own opinions. They're not as concerned necessarily as what the media is saying, what their friends are saying, or what their parents are saying. That doesn't mean, though, that they're not influenced by family lifestyle. They're different from the segment Jocelyn just talked about in the sense that they're not relying on their parents as much, but they are concerned about the fact that they are young parents and that most of them do have children, which we'll see in a minute on their demographic profile. And currently, most of them are driving a sedan, a non-luxury, pretty basic car, but in the future, there is a significant increase in the number of members of this segment that want an SUV. This is a very drastic change, and the SUV and the sedan category have almost just completely flipped in their preference. So as you can see, most of members of this segment are married. Most of them have kids, hence the name Married with Children. A lot of them do only have one child, but there's a good number with 2 or 3. So that sort of explains wanting a bigger vehicle. If you've got more kids and more stuff, you need more space. So also, more than half of this segment is above the age of 25, and their average age as a whole group of over 100 respondents is almost 27 years old. So they are, on average, at least a year older than the other 9 segments that we found, so they're kind of at the opposite end of the Generation Y profile. Also, they have a higher income on both an individual and a household basis. This is probably a result of their older age. They're out of school, so they can have full-time jobs and a consistent salary. Some important findings about segment 8, security, operation, interior room. They're all very important consideration factors for this segment of Generation Y. This, again, reflective of the fact that most of them are families, so a two-seater, 2-door coupe just isn't going to cut it for them. They need the space. They also want something that is affordable, reliable, comfortable, all those consideration factors that almost anybody who's buying a vehicle they're going to consider before they make that final purchase. Like I said earlier, they're not concerned with what their parents are necessarily saying. They're more concerned about the opinions of their spouse and the best needs for their own family, not necessarily the background that they grew up with. Also, what's interesting is that they didn't seem to have a preference of the brand origin. They didn't really lean one way or the other when it came to domestic or import brands. So in conclusion, with segment 8, we believe to be a successful manufacturer, successful dealership, then you need to have something that's affordable, something that's reliable, but also the information that you're providing to them at the dealership it's got to be useful, because most likely they're the customers that are coming in with like the 2-year-old pulling on their legs and crying, and they want to be able to come in there, make their decision, and get out. They don't want to have to come back a few times. They want to test drive, see the space, compare their options, make their decision, and get the whole process over with. Similar to the segment Jocelyn spoke about, they are concerned about the environment. I think that's a general trend, as the people from Michigan State said. Members of Generation Y are eco-conscious, but they can't afford it right now, simply because members of this segment are probably looking for the more environmentally friendly, the hybrid SUVs, which are significantly more expensive than their other alternatives, and they just, if you're raising a family right now, they don't have the disposable income. Many of them did say in some of their free responses that they would be attracted by incentives, promotions, sort of special events at the dealership, but that's not going to change their mind. They're pretty set in their consideration factors, and they're not willing to compromise on those. So to wrap things up, a few things to think about. In relation to their search patterns and how they make decisions, Generation Y is not monolithic in their views and their values. They're very different. Obviously, as you can see in just these two segments, the lower age bracket and the higher age bracket, they go through different processes. They think about cars in a different way. They have different needs, different wants, so they're not one cohesive group in this sense. So we believe that product design should begin with a clear vision of who your consumer is. If you're targeting the younger group of this generation, then you probably want to have a different approach than to the older demographics. But there are tools and techniques available, like a cluster analysis like we did, to break this group down into segments. Makes it a little bit easier to see what the groups are like. And also, some important issues to consider. Most of the people that we found in this group are not in the market today. And if they are in the market today, they're looking for used cars simply because of the economy, and some people are losing their jobs and they don't have the funds to buy a new car. But they still want to feel like if they are buying a used car that they're getting something that's great, something that's an improvement, something that says that they're doing something for themselves. We all have that want for self-fulfillment. They do see themselves in the market in 5 years. So we believe that right now the best strategy would be to consider what you're going to be producing and what's going to be available to members of this generation 5 years from now. What can you put on the lot so in 5 years when they do have the funds, they can buy from you and not from somebody else. That right now, trying to sell them new vehicles that you have on the lot right now or in the showroom just might not be the best area to concentrate on. And additionally, just if you can kind of keep this in mind, to match how these people search for information to the needs that they have. Like we said, someone who is starting a family or has a family right now, where they want their information is at the dealership. So if you're not having your information available to them there, then they're not going to see it. And like with Jocelyn's segment, if you're not having the information available to their parents or on the internet, then they're not going to see it either. So just a few things to keep in mind, and thank you so much for your time.